All right, may I invite on stage Ramesh S. Ramakrishnan, Chairman, Transworld Group, Mukesh Aghi, President and Chief Executive Officer, USISPF on stage. And in fact, to moderate this panel, I request Aditya Rajkol, Senior Executive Editor, Strategic Affairs, TV9 Network, to join us here on stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning here in Dubai. It's so great to have you all here. This is just the beginning of the News9 Global Summit. And trust me, this is only the first year of the many that are coming for you. We have two very important guests here who have been pillars of the transformation between India-US and India-UAE in different ways. And when we speak about the India-Middle East Economic Corridor, that was a transformative step that happened immediately after the G20 summit in New Delhi at the Bharat Mandapam in 2023. There were many who compared it with China's BRI. There are others who spoke about the hurdles that will come in the way, and we are seeing it right now in the Middle East. In fact, IMEC is seen as a transformative connectivity and infrastructure initiative aimed at fostering global prosperity through digital integration, strategic cooperation across the continents. It may take time, but just like normalizations have been happening in the Middle East over the last few years, there would be perhaps a little more push that would be required to make IMEC a reality. And to know more, let me go straight across to Mukesh first. To understand how you had spoken, and I remember reading at least a couple of articles that you've written in the last 1.5 years on IMEC, welcoming it as the most significant geo-economic initiative aimed at revitalizing trade and commerce across Indo-Mediterranean region. Are you of the same opinion today?
Absolutely. Let me just give you why IMEC plays a very pivotal role between India, Middle East, Europe, and the United States. What we are seeing is a stress point taking place between US and China, and supply chains are getting interrupted there. In fact, if you look at last month's data, there were 34% less exports from China into the US. China, in order to maintain its employment rate, will keep on exporting those. So it's going to find different destinations, or I would say dumping out some of the stuff they're making at a lower cost. The second aspect is that when you have a tariff whiplash policies coming out of Washington, D.C., a lot of countries are saying that we need to find alternative resources for trading. So what we see is a trend where the traffic between China into the U.S. is reducing. We are seeing other countries forming their own regional trading efforts, and that's where IMEC plays a very pivotal role. When you look at the IMEC countries, the combined GDP of these countries is around $47 trillion. And what we are seeing is that as India exports go up, as India looks at the rest of the world, we will see a IMEC corridor being built in, I call, brick by brick itself. And when I say brick by itself, you will see an initiative between India and UAE, which is a trade of almost $100 billion, and expected to go up dramatically. You will see India's trade with Europe going up. India's trade with the US has already crossed $200 billion. The target is taken to $500 billion. So what we see is this corridor is going to play a pivotal role. And you have to understand, the growth of trade on this corridor next 10 years is expected to be around 30%. We expect the logistic cost to come down on this corridor by almost 40% itself. So we do see a tremendous opportunity for India, rest of the countries to collaborate, cooperate, and drive a trade growth story among the nations itself?
Well, Mr. Ramakrishnan, taking a cue from what Mukesh said, you really brought in a transformative change in Transworld, if I could say, from a Mumbai-based company to a global company in many ways. How do you see the opportunity for the private sector, especially for the shipping sector, when we speak about IMEC? Do you think that there are still hurdles that need to be, brought under check? And how would IMEC in many ways bring this kind of a transformation completely when we speak about India and UAE ties as well?
Thank you very much. Good morning to all of you. First of all, I want to thank the Team E9 for giving me an opportunity to be here and share my thoughts. Essentially, as you rightly mentioned, we've been a company which started as a small shipping agency in India. And thereafter, we grew our business in the space of shipping and logistics, primarily concentrating between the Indian subcontinent, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East largely. Over the years, we've seen that the trade and commerce has been growing with a lot of challenges. But I think as we speak now with the signing of the CPI agreements and the understandings that the two countries have extensively between India and the UAE, things are getting a lot better. And as we heard from the ambassador in the morning, starting off from the next month, we should have a trouble-free cargo. There's no question of any custom interceptions anywhere. Once it is checked and loaded onto a ship, it comes here seamlessly. Same thing happens from here when it comes and goes back. But going back to this question, if you go back to history, all these channels are essentially coming out of a necessity. Even in this case of IMEC that we are talking about, it's a great vision of India, supported by the US, the UAE, the Saudi, and Israel. I think everything is originating of a necessity. For example, today we have a geopolitical situation which virtually blocked the Suez Canal routes. We had a case when, in 2 years back, one of our ships got stranded in the Suez Canal, again disrupted the entire global trade. We have a chance, we do not know, but the insurance rates, especially for the Hormuz, is going up by 60 to 70% for every ship that is passing by. So we've got a lot of challenges which we do not plan for, and we do not know how it is going to evolve. And consequently, it's always a great idea to always have alternative paths of trading. In this case, this IMEC that's being talked about certainly is something which is a need and which will have to happen, albeit the fact that the current challenges that's happening in our neighborhood. But there are also issues where other countries, the Saudis, have their own ways of looking at things, the UAE and India wanting it to move fast. The other countries have to sort of speed up their investments and the ideas to go along. Ultimately, this is not just building bridges or ports or terminals. It's more about building relationships, building about friendship, building about understanding, building prosperity, creative employment. A lot of these things are involved. But I'm very certain that this is a need, but it may take maybe some time before it really get concretized and we start seeing the merits of this thought. The great idea from both the governments and the other countries were involved in this.
Well, I'm glad that you touched upon the geopolitical instability, because sitting here in Dubai, and observing what's been happening between Iran and Israel, in fact, I should mention here that one of the first casualties or the first attacks that were faced in this was the Haifa port in Israel that is run by Adanis. And I should also mention that Mr. Ron Malka, the former ambassador of Israel to India, was also supposed to be here. He's the chairman of the Adani ports in Haifa, but unfortunately couldn't because the airspace is shut. Coming to Mukesh on this aspect of geopolitical instability, how do you see the attacks that have happened, on the Haifa port? And is this creation of a new Middle East perhaps the baseline to begin IMEC in many ways. Because how do you get rid of this regional conflict, be it between Israel or Hamas or other aspects? There are several regional aspects in this. Because there are continuous attacks that are happening, the supply chains could be impacted, and we saw an example of this during the Russia-Ukraine war as well.
Well, it'll take all day to answer that question because it's historical, the conflict. It's religious in some ways. It's economic. But I won't dwell too much into that. I think let's focus on the opportunity. What we are seeing is that you have a country like India. Median age is 29. And it generates roughly 1 million software engineers every year. Almost 40,000 PhDs on an annual basis coming out. And they are becoming the workhorse, the engine on the growth sides for the rest of the world. India has roughly around 2,000 global capability centers, and roughly 60% are US-based. What's fascinating is these global capability centers are going way up the value chain. When you look at a company like Qualcomm, 50% of the IP is now being generated in India. You look at IBM on the quantum computing side, some of the advanced research in quantum is happening in the city of Bangalore itself. So India is going to play a very pivotal role in economic growth story across IMEC. And just want to come back, it's not just about India and UAE or India, UAE or the US. We are seeing BRICS being built, Italians coming to India, working with India on a joint program itself. In fact, there's an IMEC summit taking place in Tricity in the month of July itself. We're working with US, Israel, India corridor itself from a startup scenario, from AI, from cybersecurity, from space itself. So I think India is going to play a very pivotal role because its population is highly educated, is young, is ambitious, and we're seeing Indian startups coming along all the way from not only just from India into UAE, we're seeing the space startups coming to the US market, defense startups coming into the US market. So the corridor will continue to grow. And one thing I like to address is corridor is not an infrastructure play here. Yes, there's an infrastructure play, but more important is an economic play, it's a digital play, it's a play in the skills arena itself. So we see tremendous opportunity taking place between India and rest of the corridor as time goes by.
Well, indeed, it's a strategic intercontinental connectivity in many ways, unseen to the scale that we are really talking about. But Mr. Ramakrishnan, as an industry expert, I want to learn from you, what are the operational challenges in many ways, and also the infrastructure challenges, if I say so? Because, you know, from India to UAE to Saudi Arabia to Jordan, Israel, and finally Europe. There is rail connectivity that we are talking about. There is, of course, the seaways, the waterways, and air corridor as well. But are there, especially talking about your shipping segment, are there any operational and infrastructure problems that you face that you actually would want to suggest to multiple governments that are looking into this?
You know, thank you for that great question. You know, we have 7,500 kilometers of coastline in India. There are numerous things that we have done in the past many years. We've had, if you go back simply 30 years back, we had ports like Bombay, which was still running with the cranes that was installed 50 to 70 years before when the British government was ruling India. Inefficient, no throughput excellence, nothing at all. But what has happened in the past 30 years, after the arrival of P&O ports, they took over the Navasheva and started developing it. Thereafter, soon on the track, we found Mundra, Cochin, and Tuticorin, and you name it. Every port has been progressively been growing. And a huge amount of investment has come from DP World, which is the UAE's base port from here. Now, once these guys came in and started sharing the expertise, efficiency started going up. And efficiency started going up, the cost of the logistics came down to a reasonable extent from where it was some years back. We still need a long way to go forward. So as far as the shipping is concerned, historically, we had ships when it used to go to UK or Europe, it would start from Calcutta, go to Chennai, go down to Cochin, then to Bombay, and then start sailing to UK. Something shipped out of Calcutta will take you close to 100 days to get it into London. Today, you can do from any port in India, anywhere, in a span of 20 days, 21 days. So the efficiencies have gone up tremendously on the back of the port. So we have very good ports. We have exceedingly great efficiencies, and the ports operating in this part of the world, which is Dubai and also with the Khalifa port in Abu Dhabi, they have some of the most exceptionally efficient ports. Incidentally, when US government had issues with their productivity and supply chain issues were happening, the government of US sent out 3 or 4 senators to this part of the world to understand what is it that they had to do to make their port more efficient. After 2 or 3 days of being here, they realized that these guys work 24 hours, 365 days, no stoppage, no holidays, nothing as against that. The US government realized that they were only working 12 to 14 hours in a day, and they were building up more and more of challenges to themselves. When supply chain issues came in, one factor that is very important is that most of the corporate heads, most of the leading companies, at the chairman level, at the management level, supply chain was just not even a space for them to think of. Everybody thought if you bought something to the port, you put it into a container, it just reaches you, goes to the retail store. Now, after the disruptions that took place in the last COVID issue and even now, people are realizing the importance of timely deliveries, efficiently managing it. All this is helping the trade to grow. Now, as far as this side is concerned, the ports are efficient. Here they're talking about Etihad Rail, which is likely to come into play. There is a string of services between India and the UAE as far as shipping is concerned, but still a lot more needs to be done via Saudi and Israel and all these places. And we can't expect things to happen in a jiffy, because geopolitical challenges remain to be there for each of these countries that we're talking about. But I think we are confident it's a question of time. We will begin to see results flowing in. India, UAE, it's already flowing exceptionally well.
Well, I have one final question for Mr. Agi. You observe things very closely from Washington, D.C. You chair the US-India Strategic Partnership Forum. So I want to ask you, recently Prime Minister Modi had a conversation with Donald Trump. And ever since Mr. Trump came on January 20th, his focus has been on tariffs. And, of course, we'll debate that in the next panel discussion, tectonic tariffs. But what do you see is the priority from Washington, D.C. right now when it comes to India? Do you think a trade deal could be sealed pretty soon? And, of course, when it comes to IMEC, do you think the priority that IMEC had in the end of 2023 after G20 remains so even today?
3-part questions. Let me just give you priority from Washington, D.C. This is President Trump's method of trying to basically take care of America. You have to understand, for the last 50 years, America has focused a lot on global, and internally, domestically, the population has been ignored. And so his agenda, or his basis agenda, is we need to take care of first America. And its trade deficit, especially with China, has been going up almost $500 billion a year. Rest of the world, almost $1 trillion a year. And that's causing a lot of economic shift, especially in job creation. So the focus has been on tariffs, leverage, negotiate with companies to bring back manufacturing back to the U.S., bring back jobs to the U.S. Not all manufacturing is going to come back. I think some advanced manufacturing is going to come back. But a lot of other manufacturing will find ways out of China into the rest of the world itself. And that's where I think India and U.S. will play a very pivotal role in trying to partner together as a country. I'll give you an example. On chip manufacturing, U.S. is focused on making chips which are 7 nanometers and below, whereas India is going to focus on manufacturing chips which are 15 nanometers and above. So we say that, Make in America and Atmanirbhar Bharat can partner together and work together from that perspective. The second part of the question, as far as US-India relationship goes, I think they're geopolitical, they're economic, they're based on trade, and they're based on people to people. We have roughly 5.5 million Indian Americans in the US and another million carrying H-1B visa. If you look at 5.5 million, they make 1.5% of the population, but they generate 6% of the GDP. So they are very influential economically, politically, and in a social aspect also. So they play a very, very strong role in basically supporting the candidates financially also. But India plays a pivotal role from a geopolitical perspective because our rising China, US sees as a threat, and India plays a partnership there with the US itself. The second aspect is manufacturing. What we have learned from the Russian war is that nation needs industrial base to sustain long-term war. US does not have that industrial base, and that's where India plays a pivotal role. In fact, if you look at a lot of defense manufacturing, if you look at the Javelin missiles or Stinger missiles, part of the components are being made in India. If you look at Swarovski helicopter, which the president flies, is made in India, especially the cabins itself. So there is a strong partnership taking place that will continue between the two countries as time goes by. So Trump's agenda, as far as on the IMEC goes, he's the one who pushed very hard on IMEC. He is very clear about that IMEC is important way to counter China on the BRI side, but at the same time drive trade among these friendly countries, which is India, Middle East, European, and the United States itself. So I think in every aspect, either be in UAE, be in Europe, or with the US, India has a role to play, and that's going to be very important.
Well, here's hoping that India-Middle East Economic Corridor becomes reality very soon. Please join me to thank both our panelists, Mr. Mukesh Aghi and Mr. Ramakrishnan, for sharing these insights and pushing for a more robust economic corridor between India and UAE. Thank you very much.